Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and translator, FM translator. For those of you who are wondering, good morning and welcome to the program this wet and rainy Wednesday. Oh boy, I don't know what happened last night, but man, the skies just kind of split open and away we go. Ready to go. It's that fall weather, all ready to happen. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and we're in the middle of the week, hump day, on the downhill slide to Firearms Friday this week. And we are ready to go for the long weekend, by the way. I forgot to tell you, Labor Day. Labor Day is on Monday, and so it will be a long weekend for us. And we will be off on Monday with, pre-programmed programming, alternate programming, best of programming. I don't know what you're going to be listening to, depending on where you are, but it's a 3-day weekend for the Labor Day weekend, which officially marks the end of summer. I'm so sorry. So we're ready to go and ready to do it. Today is a full boat. I get a chance to talk to both of my representatives. Starting off in hour one with Alaska House Representative Kevin J. McCabe. He comes in, joins us this morning, and we're going to be talking with him here in just a hot second about his vision for the future of Alaska and where we need to be going. And then in hour two, we'll pick it up with just kind of a free-flowing conversation with State Senator Mike Shower, who comes on board with us to do what we lovingly call the Shower Hour of Power. Should be a fun day to get things rolling on. So we're ready to do it. getting going this morning. Don't forget, you can always join us as well, since we simulcast the radio show on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. You can go out to any of those platforms, and no, you do not get counted absent if you're on. It doesn't matter which platform you're on. I can see where you're at. So come on in and join us and be part of it. That's all I'm saying. Come on in and just be part of it. All right, so let's get started, shall we? Let's get down into the gritty and the nitty and start talking about stuff with Representative Kevin McCabe, who joins us this morning and is ready to go. I guess I get to say, welcome to the party, pal. You're the guy that gets to say that to me. So what do we got here? Welcome to the party, pal. I love it. Look at that. Hey, I need one of those. I got to stick that on my water bottle. That's a good little deal right there. Kevin McCabe joins us this morning. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Michael. I'm doing well, thanks. A little tired, just woke up, but that's what we freight pilots do. We take up the slack for the fighter pilots that can't get out of bed before 7.
Oh yeah, okay. I see how that is. I see how that's going. They're having gotten up for the last 10 years at 0400 or whatever it is every morning. It's there are days when you're like, I'm dragging a little bit. It does happen occasionally. So, I obviously don't get my beauty sleep enough. You can see that just from looking at me. So it's all good. Kevin, now most folks, you're my legislator. I know your backstory. Probably most of you've been on the program enough that most people know your backstory. But just give us for those who don't, we're just going to get a quick thumbnail. We're not going to recap all of last session or anything else. We're going to start talking about the future. So, give me a little bit of your backstory. You know who you are, where you come from, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, I was born in Minnesota, joined the Coast Guard at 17 years old, delayed enlistment, spent 20 years in the Coast Guard, spent a couple of years at the old CIA airline, Southern Air Transport. Then I went to Air Wisconsin, and then I finally went to Atlas, and I spent 24 years there. I just retired last June. I've been in the legislature. This is my last year of the second session, so 4 years, and I'm running again for House Representative for District 30. So I'm married to wife Lynn, live out here behind Big Lake, and I'm excited for the future of Alaska. Actually, as much of a mess as politics seems to be, I think Alaska is poised on the sort of on the leading edge of greatness. We just need to get a few things in place, and we are ready to move forward.
Well, it has been a hot mess, man. I've been watching it. I've been watching this kind of thing it's a 30-year slow motion train wreck. It kind of is what I've been watching. It's like I can see what's happening. I can see where it's going. I feel like the little boy who cried wolf, but there really was a wolf. For 30 years, I've been talking about the same things, and we still see them happening. We just watched what happened in this last session, and it was, we knew it wasn't going to be a great session because we knew what the makeup of the legislature was. We knew how the majorities were laid out. We knew it was going to be a bit of a clown show, and of course, it turned out to be that's the case. So, Kevin, tell people out there, let's just kind of start. Let's just kind of start from the very beginning. What do we do to fix the fiscal situation in Alaska? That's really, there's a couple there. That's a big question because it kind of encompasses all the problems, the permanent fund, the revenue and the spending, the exploration and the development of resources and everything else. But, we need to have some key factors here. And, we need to have some metrics to kind of measure things by. Because we hear a lot of yakety yak, but we don't see a lot of actual action once things get going on, or there's always some kind of, we had a roadblock and we couldn't really do what we thought we were going to be able to do when you elected us. So, give us Kevin McCabe's vision of the future for the legislature. If you get back in, what is the direction that you want to take your part of the legislature?
Sure. The philosophical differences. That's the big one, right? Do we increase the size of government, which is where the majority of our money comes from, or do we increase the size of the private sector and try to get more money to fund government that way, increasing revenue? Whether it be mining or oil or natural gas, somehow finding a way to increase revenue to put more money into our coffers. Right now, most of our funding for government comes from the permanent fund. Used to all come from oil royalties. Now it's a little bit more permanent fund than oil royalties. And, it's the difference that we have between the big government folks and the small government folks. They believe that the government is there to provide for us. They believe that the permanent fund should be the mechanism to provide for us. And they're not too interested in putting mining in where they want long trails and that sort of thing. So, that's our differences. And I'm a firm believer in the private sector, and I'm a firm believer in smaller, less regulatory government. And I'm a firm believer that we need to develop our resources the way our Constitution says. Unfortunately, convincing all those other folks of my beliefs has been my challenge.
Well, that is the challenge of the legislature, right? 21 and 11. That's the rule. The rule is 21 and 11. You've got to convince 21 people in the House and 11 people in the Senate that you're right. And unfortunately, we just can't seem to kumbaya and come together and do what we need to do in a lot of ways. There's a lot of different ideas out there. And unfortunately, philosophically, Those folks on the other side of the fence, what I would term as not even necessarily the Democratic side of the fence or the Republican side, I would say the big government versus the smaller government side, because we've got plenty of mixing on the one side. On the big government side, you've got Republicans and Democrats who are all about that. And on the little government side, smaller government side, it's mostly a small group of Republicans that are kind of in that field. But that's the challenge, is you can't, we've got a group of people in there who basically feel like they've got all the answers, regardless of whatever the track record is showing. And they have seemed to have forgotten that the government, that the government should be dependent on what's happening in the private sector. There's a complete divorcing between the public and the private sector economies, and they seem to have forgotten that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. No, Reagan said it best, right? The problem is the government is the problem, right? The government is not here to solve your problems. The government is your problems, and that is 100% correct. And I can easily forget that. When you're talking about certain bills, and you look at a bill and you say, well, that sounds great. That sounds all right. This will take care of the people. And then you look into it a little bit further and you think, maybe not so much. Where do you draw the line? We signed a bill the other day on farming, allowing the boroughs and the cities to decrease property taxes should they desire on smaller farms. I think you had to make $2,500 a year from farming. And inside that language, there was an allowance for I think it was actually a portion of the bill that dealt with herd shares, owning part of a cow. So inside that language was a little bit of language that allowed the DEC to come in and inspect your hobby farm. And so folks got upset at that. And my answer was, well, we wanted the root bill to pass. We wanted to take this baby step. And to do that, we had to put language in there to satisfy those people that think that the federal government is the only one that can ensure food safety. Even though we all know that USDA is not always the safest food, and you always hear about recalls for, salmonella or something like that, even after the food's been inspected by the federal government. So their track record ain't great, but there's still those folks that said, well, I'm not going to pass. I'm not going to vote for your bill. I think it was Rep Rauscher's bill. I'm not going to vote for that bill unless there's some language in there that allows the DEC to go into a farm and look at it and say yay or nay. And we've brought that on ourselves. I mean, it's the case of one person soils their diapers or soils their pants, and the rest of us get to wear diapers, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's always one step forward and two step back. So we get to take one step towards food security, yet on the other hand, we also get to take one step towards, Big Brother looking at everything we do, including a hobby farm. Like,
right.
No, get off my land. No, get out. I mean, I just wouldn't put up with it personally. And I said that when I ran a hobby farm and when I lived in Fairbanks, when I lived in North Pole, is that, no, I don't care. I'm going to do what I do. And you can get, that's the thing. It's always some kind of compromise. Unfortunately, it appears from the outside that the compromise is always falling onto the side of bigger government.
Right.
Right. I mean, and that's the way it always seems to fall out. And that really is, I think, part of the problem of what we can't seem to remember that we need to kind of get government out of the way, that to remind people that it wasn't too long ago that government was not involved in every aspect of our lives, right? It was not, wasn't 60, 70 years ago that government was not involved in every single facet of our lives, and we still did okay. We still lived, we still made it, and that's part of the problem. Kevin McCabe is our guest. Just looked up at the clock and realized we're out of time for this segment. We got more coming up. We're going to continue here in just a moment talking about him and his candidacy and what is the plan for 2025, 2026, etc. We'll be back with more. Kevin McCabe, our guest, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Kevin. I mean, while I support the ideals behind a bill like that, I don't know as I could have voted for it if you're asking the hobby farmers to be able to open themselves up to government scrutiny on that kind of thing. I mean, if you want money, if they're asking for money, come in and give us some money. Okay, I guess, you would have to give in to some kind of inspection. But if you just want to operate, if you're just doing it on your own, then again, get off my lawn.
Right.
Stay off my land. And that's the thing. It's incrementalism. That's what kills us, is that with the best of intentions, a lot of these different laws get passed with the best of intentions of trying to help us. And yet at the same time, each one ratchets that noose around our neck a little tighter to where we have to make the government for everything.
Yeah, incrementalism is the way we need to solve that. We need to go backwards in small steps the same way we went forward, in my opinion. Too often, we finally get to the point where we're really, really pissed off and we put out this sweeping bill to remove all the regulations or to fix what we see has become the problem due to incremental steps forward. And we want to solve it right now, and maybe that's not the way to solve it. I mean, the pro-life discussion is a classic in that, incrementalism sort of got us to where we are today. And then we want to put forth a huge bill that would criminalize even the taxi drivers that take the young girl to the abortion center and make them accessory to murder. Well, maybe that's not the way to do it. Maybe a bill such as I put forth last session, HB 107, just start out and let's define life. Let's give the courts a toehold, something they can use in our statute that says, well, this is what the legislature thinks life is. And this is what the legislature thinks the right to privacy is, because we are supposed to define that for the state, and just start out in baby steps and work our way into where we should be. That's the same sort of philosophical discussion as big government versus small government. So.
Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's the problem is that we become so used to it. We become so inculcated and accepting of the idea that government is involved in every facet of our lives. And I mean, I blame the public education system, quite honestly, is that's what we're taught, and we have been taught for multiple generations that government is the solution to any question that you have. And so people, it doesn't even compute with people when you say, well, we should take government out of the equation, or they don't need to be in the equation. And people just go, their elevator stops and they just can't figure it out.
Right. Or, you have a problem, you and I have a problem. And the very first thing we think is, well, I'm going to sue him. And what do? We go to the government and say, which one of us is right here, Mr. Judge? So we're sort of enabling that branch of the government as well and increasing their power, because instead of resolving our differences as human beings used to, now we're doing it with the government involved, and we have sort of given them that power.
It's it's frustrating to see it, but we're constantly fighting this running battle, and in some ways, to many of us, the appearance is, and whether it's true or not, is that it's a losing battle, that we're fighting this kind of this fighting retreat where we're trying to hold on to the last drabs of freedom, and everybody around us is like, oh no, the government will take care of you, don't worry about it. Oh no, that's what they should be. That's what they should be. And we start sounding like we're part of the lunatic fringe, When in honesty, like I said, if you just go back 70 years, I mean, if you go back 100 years, people would be like, that's not the government's. I mean, they would be shocked by some
Right.
of the things that are going on today. And that's part of the problem.
Amen to that.
All right. Kevin McCabe, our guest. We're going to get back into it here. The Michael Duke Show. Melody says coffee. I need coffee. Yeah, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. Let's get to it. Please like and share. Please like and follow. If you haven't gone over to Rumble yet and checked us out on Rumble, please do that and make sure that you follow over on Rumble. We're trying to get some viewership up on there as well. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
All right. Kevin McCabe is our guest. He's running for re-election here in the Mat-Su, the Big Lake KGB area. What's the House district again, Kevin? I've already forgotten.
It's District 30.
District 30. I mean, it used to be District 8, and now it's District 30, and I can never remember. It takes me 3 years to remember what the new district numbers are, and then I have to learn them all over again. Okay, Kevin. So what is your vision for where we go from here? Because, we're talking about, like I said, we have an overarching fiscal problem in this state. And the problem, it always used to be, I always used to argue that, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. The problem is that we've had a spending problem for so long, it has become both now a spending problem and a revenue problem because they just can't even, it's never saw a dollar, didn't want to spend. And so here we are now. So what is your plan and what are you looking at? What is your game plan when you go back to the legislature to try and address these major problems in the state? And it is a fiscal problem, whether we're talking about the BSA, whether we're talking about defined benefits, whether we're talking about royal relief in the Cook Inlet, whether we're talking or gas relief, whatever we're talking about, it all comes back to a fiscal problem. So what is your vision and what is your plan for those things?
My plan is, frankly, to find a way to get the Mat-Su to be the sort of revenue generator of the state. So we have to start. My vision, if you will, is that Port McKenzie is key. We have to finish the rail spurs so that people will come to Port McKenzie. We have 4 or 5 pages of people that are willing to come to Port McKenzie and put some form of industry out there, whether it be a smelter or some sort of a energy concept, tidal energy. There's gas storage. There's so many people that are interested in Port McKenzie. They're not going to come there until there's transportation to go to the port. If you look at every port in the U.S., it has rail associated with it, other than Galveston and Miami, I think, and a little bit Long Beach. But point being is there is a key to unlocking the potential of the Mat-Su. I think that the Mat-Su has been like somebody told me the other day, it's like the ugly stepdaughter. We've sort of been shuffled off into the corner, and we have great potential here, whether there's coal potential for a clean coal plant at the top of the West Sioux. There's huge copper deposits up there, huge gold deposits. There's antimony, but we need to be able to export them or use them somehow. So once we have done that, once we've got Port McKenzie unlocked and the rail spur finished, then I think that West is sitting access to get the coal plant online up there. That it's a vision of a company called Flatlands Energy, sub 14 cent a kilowatt hour power is what he's talking about. I think he said there's maybe as much as 3,000 years worth of coal up there, and he can make it cleaner than wind turbines with a spinning spinning natural gas base load. So the answer to our energy problem lies there, not importing gas, in my opinion. Nobody's talking about it except me. Combined House resources and Senate resources meeting 2 years ago that talked about energy in Cook Inlet and gas in Cook Inlet. And we had NSTAR was there, Hillcorp was there, every gas producer was there. They had a 10 or 12 point detailed plan. Nowhere on that plan was there any mention of coal. And coal has become a 4-letter word. Although now the Biden administration is starting to realize, and the Department of Energy is starting to realize, that there is potential for clean coal plants, power plants, and Alaska desperately struggles with that. We have not been able to attract any kind of manufacturing, any kind of revenue generating company, private company, because our energy prices are frankly too high. I think
Right. Well, energy is the cornerstone of civilization. I mean, I hate to break that to anybody who doesn't know, but clean, cheap energy is the cornerstone to any advanced civilization. And until we figure that out, we're not going to be able to do anything. And they're not even talking about coal. They're trying to shut down coal, right? They're trying to shut down the Healy coal plant and everything else. I mean, they want it to be put to bed. They want to try and maneuver over to these more unreliable renewables, which again, if you took the subsidies away and actually look at the cost of what it takes to produce the equipment to produce renewables, you realize that you're really not saving anything in the long run. And it is less reliable because it doesn't, like you said, they don't spin all the time. The sun doesn't shine all the time. The only renewable that works is hydro, and nobody wants to talk about hydro because you might hurt the fish somewhere or anything else. And yet Hoover Dam, which is over 100 years old, still producing the cheapest electricity in, I think, the entire country at this point. And so those are we just keep avoiding the things that seem to be, able to give us. And of course, we're not hardly talking at all about the potential for nuclear batteries or, any kind of sealed system, nuclear systems or anything else. These are the things that will take us forward, but nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Sure, I agree. Nuclear, because of the federal government and everybody's fear and the excess regulation, it's 10 years of development and 5 years of permitting, or maybe the other way around, 5 years of development and 10 years worth of permitting before we could ever get it online, unless there's some sort of emergency where they really need it. But I agree. If we had developed Susitna-Watana the way we should have, instead of allowing the Susitna River Coalition and the Cook Inlet Keepers and everybody else to make us so afraid of harming a salmon, if we had developed that, we wouldn't be having this Cook Inlet gas conversation. We wouldn't be having the conversation about importing natural gas from a foreign country to Alaska. For crying out loud, that's to me, it's just almost unspeakable, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's the only option that I think at this point, it may be one of the only options that's available in the long run, because we refuse to address some of the other issues. It's a hard truth. We may have to import simply because we have no other choice. We can't live in the dark and freeze, right? But it's because we've refused to acknowledge things like hydro or expansions or exploration of new technologies like nuclear or anything else. And of course, we just saw that the Biden administration yesterday shut down 28 million acres of Alaska's lands from any form of development, any resource development. I think they included timber in there and some of those things as well. So you could be timber, oil, gas, whatever. You can't do a single thing. They want to lock it up. And here we are again, alone in the dark, freezing our butts off because nobody wants us to be able to help ourselves. And that is probably one of the most frustrating things that we've got going on.
Yeah, 1 out of 13 acres they want to lock up. And by the way, coming down the pipe is shutting down the oil pipeline. The land underneath the oil pipeline was supposed to be transferred back to us. It hasn't been, and I forget the name of the name of that particular resolution. And there is a application through the Department of Interior to move forward with an EIS for shutting down the pipeline. So, so then what? So then our major revenue generator, other than the permanent fund, is gone. and any chance we have of being anything other than just a national park for people from the lower 48 is pretty much evaporated. So we have to figure it out for sure and
Well,
quickly.
and it's interesting. It's not like they're really fixing any of these problems. I mean, we're talking about the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, which, by the way, is already beyond its expected life. They didn't expect the pipeline to last 30 years, and here we are. Here we are 60, 70 years down the road. But when you look at this, where is the oil going to come from? Because we're not, even though they want to move us off of petroleum-based, things for power and everything else, they're still going to need it. So where's it going to come from? Oh, well, is it going to come from the North Slope and you're going to tank it away? Is it going to? No, it's going to come from other countries. We'll be buying it from Venezuela or Russia or some other place where they don't take care of the environment in the same way that we do. So this is really more about virtue signaling and theater, kabuki theater, more than anything else, and feeling good about ourselves because, well, we don't do that, even though we still buy oil and gas from these places that do, because we stopped doing it ourselves. We at least can feel good about it.
Right. That's the same thing we did with the Exxon Valdez oil cleanup. We wanted to feel good about ourselves, and this is dating myself horribly, but so we went and steam cleaned the beaches, and in the process of steaming the beaches, we killed the microbes that would eat the oil, the carbon oil. It just it was all to feel good about ourselves, and we do that a lot, don't we?
So what do we do as a state, and what do you do as a legislator to try and overcome that? I mean, you're talking about Point McKenzie. I mean, I agree. There's potential here for many things, and one of the things that people talk about a lot is, and have been talking about it for 15, 20 years now, is is data centers. I mean, one thing that data centers rely on is cheap, affordable energy, and of course a cool, cold environment, because all those data centers, those server farms, they generate a ton of heat. I mean, you get 30 below, you could leave the doors open of a facility and the whole place would still be at 70 degrees because everything's, that's why they want a colder environment to get this stuff done. But we're never going to be a major data center hub. We're never going to be anything like that until we fix the issue related to infrastructure and affordable energy. And it seems like, again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or maybe 1.75 steps back, right? We're barely moving the needle in any direction.
Right. And, part of that, I said it earlier, but we need to back up and find the one step that we can start to take forward where we don't have to go backwards. And I think, we have all these folks lined up against West Susitna Access, whether it be Cook Inlet Keepers, 1630 Fund, Susitna River Coalition, all those folks. Maybe that's the one step we need to allow Flatlands Energy to get their the infrastructure up to where the coal is to build the power plant up there. We're not going to be able to do it all by helicopter. We just won't. It'll be too expensive. But if we had a road up there where we could get what it takes to build the power plant and get the coal mining started, then we could possibly have cheap energy in half a decade or 7 years, I think he said. So it's up to us to find that one key that unlocks the piece of the puzzle, and that's kind of what I'm focused on. I'm starting to take a lot of flack for the West Susitna Access and the way the DOT is doing it, and of course I'm on the radar for Susitna River Coalition for sure. But it's funny, the Susitna River Coalition is based out of Talkeetna. One of the biggest data centers around is in Talkeetna, and wanting to expand. So,
right.
I
mean, how do we do it? We need to be able to do these things, and we need to be able to do it cheaply and affordably. Again, I will point to Hoover Dam providing all that power for, I don't know, I think it's 7 cents a kilowatt hour or something for a big majority of the Southwest. I mean, is all being generated out of there. Why aren't we talking more about that? Does it affect things? Yes. But in the long run, is it worth it? Yes. I mean, how we can advance it. The cornerstone of it is cheap, affordable energy. And what's the one thing we in Alaska continue to fight over and have for 45 years? One of the big issues has always been affordable energy. And if we don't figure out how to get it done, we're again in the dark, freezing. That's what's going to happen if we don't get it done. Kevin McCabe, our guest. We're going to continue here in just a moment. We got one final segment here. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more and Kevin McCabe in just a moment.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Kevin McCabe, our guest here on the program. I mean, I feel like this is all preaching to the choir, Kevin, but that's part of the problem. And I understand wanting to retain the natural beauty, to protect the wildlife and do all those things, but I just find it hard to believe that most of these people, it's not about conservationism. It's not about conserving what we have, making it last forever, protecting things. It is about keeping things trapped in amber. We want them exactly like they are right now, nothing to change, and that's what it is, and we'll just be fine. But society will never move forward if that's the case. I mean, if we, locked everything in amber and we can't generate these new things, what are we going to do? And again, never taking a look at what the cost. Oh, we'll just do renewables. We'll just do solar panels and windmills and everything. Never looking at, well, what does it cost to produce that solar panel? How much energy is saved, or how much extraction and pollution is saved by. Nobody's looking at the cost of those things, not just in money terms, but in the materials and the time and how many millions of tons of stuff have to be mined to create a solar farm.
Right. Well, totally. It's we all throw our hands up in the air and say, oh, climate change. And we've been sold this bill of goods by Al Gore and his inconvenient truth crap. And if you actually start to read books like Epstein's The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, or the coming climate crisis that we are creating for ourselves, it's amazing. There is no man-made climate change is a fallacy. It's just not happening. We don't contribute enough to the environment in the way of greenhouse gases to make a difference. Climate is going to change. That's what it does, and we could throw trillions of dollars at it and not affect the temperature 1 degree. So we have to figure it out. I was in a conference in Canada a couple weeks ago, and as part of that conference, we went and toured a direct air capture carbon removal plant that cost billions. They're building one in Texas that's an example of that. And the CEO was definitely a climate cultist, if you will, and he was talking about the CO2 in the air and that it was at dangerous levels. Well, the EPA says 1,000 parts per million sustained is dangerous. 2,000 parts per million, you wouldn't be able to spend more than a few minutes in the building. But we're at about 420 right now. It goes up about 1.5 parts per million every year, and so it would take 275 years to get to 1,000 parts per million of CO2, which is what they claim is the greenhouse gas that's hurting the atmosphere. It's actually not. It's water vapor is the bigger one. But so the CO2 issue, we're trying to solve an issue that is unsolvable by us, by throwing trillions of dollars at it. And whether it's solar panels or wind farms or any of that sort of thing, they all probably have their place. I live in a solar home. It has its place. but is it going to solve what they consider a climate crisis? No, it's just not going to do that. And think about how little time over the millennia that it took us to solve the pollution problems in LA and New York that were rampant in the 1970s. We fixed those in a couple of decades.
Right.
In the longer we go, so 275 years is a real long time for us to
the technology advances, right? Look at London. Remember good old London town, how smoky and foggy, and they were burning coal and then, as technology advances, we clean things up over and over and over again. It doesn't mean we jettison things. And again,
Right.
We don't play the theater. That's the thing that kills me, is the theater of we're going to move all to renewables. Well, first of all, not only are most renewables unreliable in the term, and I don't mean they don't work, I mean they don't produce a constant flow of power. Solar, wind, the only thing that produces a constant flow of power is geothermal and hydro, right? Because they're a constant on thing. But again, then we can't do hydro because we might damage something else. Geothermal doesn't produce enough to be able to really make a difference. Maybe tidal could be something we could look at in the future. But again, they haven't perfected those technologies. We can't abandon known technologies that work for things that don't produce a sustainable, affordable thing. And again, what are the cost of some of those things, like solar, again, for what I'm saying? It has its place, but can it replace all of everything? And that's the problem.
Right. I agree. And we tend to forget that the reason you and I are talking right now through this technology is because of fossil fuels, whether it's because it gave us the time to develop it or because it's part of the development of the technology.
Right. All right, final segment here. We're going to continue on here and pick things up. Kevin McCabe, our guest. We'll continue the Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's get to it. Here we go.
The Michael Dukes Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
All right, we're continuing now. Kevin McCabe is our guest. Kevin, we know we're going to be faced with certain issues. We see, you've told us what your focus is going to be on: development, Point McKenzie, energy. But we're faced with other issues, obviously, as well. You know that the education lobby is going to be back. We already know that. They've already telegraphed all that it's on the way, that they didn't get enough. 1413 is what they really want to begin with. And, then we've got defined benefits. We've got now merging of this discussion on the merging of the permanent fund and the earnings reserve and all these other things, all of them giving them access to more monies, to do more things, to forget about the private economy and make sure that the government spend is protected at all costs. What's your take on all these? What's your position on all these things here as we move forward?
Well, I think that the education lobby forgets, possibly, or maybe they know and they just don't want to say, that this last year we put $322 million towards education on top of the $2 billion that's already there, $2+ billion. So we added $322 million to education. 64 million of that was the top 15 projects on deferred maintenance, or major school maintenance, they call it. Another 30 million towards new schools, plus the BSA increase, I think 175 million. Pupil transportation, which is the big one in the Matsu, was 7 million. So we did put a lot of money towards education, and it's still not enough. It's not going to be enough until they get that BSA up where they want. And why is that? Well, it's because the school administrators want unfettered access to that money without the restriction of major school maintenance. The legislature is clearly saying to the school administrators, you need to focus on this. Major school maintenance should be where you're putting your money, and instead you're hiring more administrators, buying new snowplows every year, whatever it is. You're not putting it towards the schools, which house our children, which is where we educate them. So I'm thinking that the education lobby is going to be down there in force. And if they don't start talking about kids when they come in my office, they're not going to be in my office long. We need to start talking about outcomes and kids.
But that's the problem. They talk about kids and they say, well, we need the BSA because otherwise your kids won't learn. But then they don't mandate that any of that money actually makes it to the kids. It's smoke and mirrors. It's look at this hand, and here's what we do with the money on the other hand. It's for the children. We need that for your children are going to be in the streets if they don't. And then it gets sucked up by overhead, administration, contracts, building maintenance, all this other stuff. Less, only 50%, in some cases less than 50%, makes it into the classroom. And even that could be wishy-washy because we've seen how they've allocated, oh, well, this IT guy, he does it, and some of that gets to the classroom, so we'll count that money towards the classroom. Is it really even getting into the classroom? So they tell us the one thing, but isn't that even really a good indicator of what's going on?
No, and if you look into the coding of how the money is spent in the various school districts, the classroom coding or the codes that they say is part of classroom include all the administrators and also the entire IT department, including the laptops that they are essentially just giving to the kids. So some school districts, in particular, one of the richest or the wealthiest school district in the state, is giving laptops to kids, and then when they graduate, the kids take the laptops with them. That's part of the base student allocation that they want to apply towards, towards the classroom. And my mantra is always, well, what about reading, writing, arithmetic, civics, American history? What are we doing? We did the READS Act. That was apparently a good thing, although now they want money to teach reading, and I'm like, you want money because of the READS Act, and you say it's an unfunded mandate, and isn't that what teachers are supposed to do? Teach reading? To me, it's we need to start asking some really hard questions instead of just sitting there and listening politely. So,
right. Well, and what an uphill battle, excuse me, what an uphill battle it was to get the READS Act passed.
Right.
It was a tooth and nail fight. And yet we've seen it happen. We've seen it used in other states effectively. And it seems like any time we have something that is effective that goes against whatever direction they're going right now, but has worked in other places, they're like, well, we couldn't possibly do that. We can't possibly do that. Yet they produce a product that is, 1 in 4 children right now fail. They're not even making it out of school. It was a 76%, I think, graduation rate right now, which is only up 3 or 4% from when Sarah Palin was in office. And it was a crisis then because it was 72% graduation rate. But even when they graduate, they're not ready. They have to go, something like 60% of them have to go through remedial math just to make it into college. If that's the case, we have a failing product. And yet anytime we talk about accountability or metrics or where the kids are at, we can't do that either.
Right. And it's a difficult conversation because part of that conversation is the teachers. We have some fabulous teachers. We just need to let them be teachers instead of putting all these mandates on them, whether it be Common Core, CRT, gender studies, where does it end? How about just letting them be teachers? They're teachers for a reason. They're teachers because they love kids. They're certainly not in it for the money. They want to teach kids. Maybe we just ought to let them be teachers. And I think that the best leadership, some of the best leadership is right here in the Mat-Su, allows them to do that. There was a big discussion last year about over 1,000 teachers short. The actual number was closer to 500. In the Mat-Su, we were 1 teacher short, and that's because we had one on maternity leave, but it was filled by a long-term substitute. So where's the shortage? It's in the school districts that don't allow teachers to be teachers.
Right. It's frustrating to watch. It seems like we've lost our way. We've lost the mandate of what we should be doing, which is teaching the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, critical thinking, accurate thought, and how to learn. That's what we should be teaching. All this other stuff is a distraction, and is sucking up all the oxygen in the room. It's crazy.
Right.
This discussion on the permanent fund and the permanent fund dividend and the permanent and the earnings reserve of the permanent fund. There's this move now, and we're seeing it to push them together. And the push to get them together is for one reason, and that's to get access to the corpus of the fund. That's the bottom line. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. And I've been warning about that for 20 years. What's your thoughts now on, we moved $8 billion out of the earnings reserve into the corpus, and now we have a crisis because they moved this $8 billion and they're doing accounting gimmicks and everything else. What's your take on this? Will the legislature take this up? What's your stand?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure the legislature will take it up. Certainly, if they do, my stand has always been that the permanent fund is there, just like Governor Hammond said. The permanent fund is there to activate the militant Alaskans, the militant ring of Alaskans, when it comes time to protect the permanent fund itself. I mean, the dividend is out there. And we should be squawking for sure, because the legislature is predictably by Hammond is trying to take the dividend, because the next step is going into the corpus to fund government. And I think that's a huge mistake. I've been fighting against that as well, as much as one vote can fight against it. In the 4 years that I've been down there, the one time we had a chance maybe to reverse direction, we lost a couple of very conservative folks on the vote for concurrence and sent the budget back to the conference committee. And not only did we come away with half of the dividend, but we came away with 7 less troopers in the valley. So we need to be smarter. We need to fight smarter. That's all I can say. And I don't know quite how to do that other than talking.
But not combining the funds is the first step, right? I mean,
absolutely. That would be a huge mistake.
90 seconds, Kevin. Final thoughts here for today. How could folks find out more about your campaign? What do we need to do? Give it to us.
Sure. It's votekevinmccabe.org or .com. Either one will get you there. And that's my website, and Facebook. It's also Vote Kevin McCabe. And you can also call me 907-229-3721. And I'm happy to talk with anybody. One of the smartest things I ever heard came from Jamie Allard, actually, when asked about, somebody asked her, tell me in 10 seconds why I should listen to you for your 2-minute elevator speech. And she said, I'm a conservative, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment Christian, small government person, and I would rather spend the next 2 minutes listening to what you want. And I think that's a good stance for a politician, and I'm happy to answer the phone at any time.
All right, Kevin McCabe, thank you so much for coming in. Interesting discussion this morning. We'll continue up next, the shower hour of the power. State Senator Mike Shower finally getting out of bed. Boy, we'll be back with more of the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. I mean, Kevin, I couldn't agree more. If we could solve the issue of affordable power, affordable energy in this state, a lot of these problems would go away. A lot of the problems would go away. And yet it seems like at every turn, it's some kind of stumbling block towards that stuff. And it just kind of boggles my mind sometimes where we're at on that.
100%. 100% agree. Hey, I got to tell you that Shower's going to be upset with me because I didn't set him up for the discussion about elections and ballots and that sort of thing. So I was having so much fun, I totally forgot that I sent you that letter that we put out from my office yesterday.
Yeah. And, I saw that. We didn't even get into that. So, but Shower will have to set himself up.
Yeah, you can actually, Terry Lyons, it's her friend who called her and said, hey, I found this bag on the side of the road. Who do I call? And she said, call Kevin. And so he called me and we had a chat, and the end result is that letter and a big investigation now by the Division of Elections, which I think is maybe closing the door after the horses are gone, but still they're looking into it, which is an improvement, I think. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, when we first heard this, I was a little leery to think, is this real? Is this just kind of more, things or whatever? But yeah, it was kind of shocking to see, and I'm glad to see that they've got an investigation going in on this. We'll have to see what's going on. Kevin, hold the line for just a sec, because I'm trying to call Shower. I was going to bring him on and let you guys chat for a second before we got going on, but there we go. I was just going to say his phone kept going. I didn't think you were going to answer your phone, Dozer. What's up?
Why?
Because
Why not?
it forwarded it 3 times. As soon as I dialed it, it said call
Really?
forwarded. Yeah, I went to the thing.
Huh.
Mike Shower on. Kevin McCabe also on with you right there. Hey, Kevin just wanted to apologize because we got tacked so bad we didn't get a chance to set it up for this election thing. So anything you want to say to Kevin, especially since he said those freight pilots always get up earlier than the fighter pilots, I don't know if you've been watching this or not, but
no, that's just the heavy guy speaking. You can't help them.
Oh,
they can't help them.
They can't help themselves. They just do they got to poke the fun at the bear.
They're jealous. They're jealous.
Kevin,
Yeah,
anything you want to say to Mike before we let you go, or your final thought before we go here?
Oh, I have lots of things to say to Mike, but probably should not say them on
Hey, the FCC
Facebook.
could be listening
on a recorded radio.
Yeah, let's not do this, guys. Let's not. All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much again. Appreciate you coming on board, and we look forward to talking to you here in the future. Good luck. Good luck as we continue on. We'll probably have you on again before November, but appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. See you, Dozer.
Right. See you later.
Cheers.
All right, Kevin McCabe, our guest there on the Michael Duke Show. All right, my friend, you all ready to dive into this and talk about all this madness?
As far as you know.
As far as I know. All right. Well, hold the line here. I'm gonna be coming back to you here in just a hot second. Let me go back to the comments. Oh, I was going to ask that question and I didn't. I apologize, Rick, because Rick asked the question about where was it? He wanted to know where he could read about. Too many comments this morning. I've scrolled beyond it, and now I've got to go back and find it. Rick said, Kevin, where can we Rick. I'm looking. He wanted to know where he could get more information on something, and for some reason I can't find it now. But it was there. So Rick, if you want to ask the question again, I don't know. Oh, where can I read more about the coal out in the area that you mentioned, which was the clean coal out at the head of the Susitna? It was Flatland Energy was doing it. Where can we learn more about it? I recommend you reach out to Kevin, and he will give you the information there, Rick. But yeah, it should be. I mean, that's good information. We need to be talking more about that. Other options that are out there as well. Brian said, silly humans. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. We have maybe 50,000 years of real data. I think 50,000. I think that's a little ambitious. I think we're lucky to have really 5,000 years of real data as well. Let's go back here. Tracer said the National Marine Fisheries Service rep at our Kodiak Comfish event said that underwater volcanic activity doesn't affect the ocean temperatures. Really? I mean, really? I mean, we're spewing red hot magma into the ocean, but it doesn't affect the ocean temperatures at all. Don't worry about that. I mean, the sun affects ocean temperatures for sure on the top, but nothing coming from the bottom will fix that. I mean, that doesn't matter at all, right? I had what? Donna said, I had a school board member walk into a crowded classroom of fifth graders, count heads, and say, that's a lot of money. That's a little disappointing. These comments have been going through all the different topics that we've been hitting on. major advances, says Jerica. Major advances in ocean-based power generation with a state with the most coastline in the entire country. It's stupid not to use the ocean. I mean, I agree. I think tidal generation is another thing we should be talking about and looking at. And, it should be a technology, especially when we've got more coast than the entire country. Yes. We should be looking at that. There's always other options. We got to figure out what they are. Okay, we got to go. I'm still not caught up, but that's how it works. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome to hour 2 of the big radio broadcast for this beautiful, wet and rainy Wednesday. Just a reminder, it's Labor Day weekend. So for those of you who weren't paying attention or it kind of snuck up on you, Monday is Labor Day. And so we will be, I will be on vacation. Well, not that I won't be working, but I got a lot of stuff going on, and we will be off for the Monday holiday, and we'll be back next Tuesday. So don't forget about that. But I just wanted to remind you because I forgot about it till yesterday afternoon that this weekend was. Somebody sent me an email and said something about the 3-day weekend, and I'm like, what 3-day weekend? Oh, Labor Day. Okay, got it. Just finished up with Kevin McCabe. It was a great conversation, very interesting, a little bit different than what we normally do with candidates, but a good discussion nonetheless, and we're continuing. He did say at the end of the show when we were off the air in the break, he did say, I was going to set things up for Mike Shower because they've both been talking about election integrity, and of course, Kevin had that story, I don't know if you saw it on his Facebook page, about the guy finding the election bag with ballots in it, and there's photos and everything else, and the Division of Elections is actually looking into it right now. He was going to talk about that before Mike Shower came on because Mike has been big into election integrity recently. So he apologized for not bringing that up, but we're going to continue here. Mike Shower is our guest. We're going to be talking with him here in just a hot second, and we're gonna get his take on everything that's going on around the state and around the around the state, all the issues that are important. We're going to talk with Mike Shower right now. Let's get into it, shall we? And bring him on board to discuss it. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
I am happy to be here.
Happy to be here. I'm happy to be up so early and ready to go and cognizant. Have you had your coffee yet? I mean, I guess that's the first question.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I haven't had my coffee yet.
Well, good Lord, man. You should, that's why they put timers on those coffee pots. All right. Well, let's get started here this morning. We love to chat with you about all different kinds of things. And there's a lot on the plate to discuss. I mean, we've got, let's see, where are we at? We've got the latest, of course, is the Biden administration shut down the shut down the 28 million acres in Alaska. We got that. That's the latest from yesterday. Nancy Dahlstrom dropped out of the race for the U.S. House race, so we got your thoughts on that. We got the thing that I was just mentioning, this ballot bag that was found by one of your constituents, and the Division of Elections now investigating that for election questions and everything else. I mean, there's just lots of things to talk about, Mike. So you know what? Soup du jour. You take your pick here. Pick your poison. Where do we want to start?
All good topics. I'll start reviewing Kevin kind of left off and didn't quite get into, which was energy. Look, man, I'm to the point of thinking Democrats are downright evil. They want to basically turn this state into a big park. You know that. We've talked about it many times over the years. But I'm looking at the Democrats in Alaska and going, who's going to support a Democrat? You're literally supporting Democrats who are anti-resource development. Their own platform in the state of Alaska is anti-oil. Anti-oil, Mike, the very thing that funded this state, that funds all of their little programs that they love so much. They're anti-development. The Biden administration, which would be continued and then accelerated by a Harris administration, will destroy, let me repeat that, destroy the economy of Alaska. You are participating in lunacy if you vote for Democrats, if you vote for Harris in this upcoming election cycle, Michael, because they're going to destroy the state economically. There'll be nothing left. It will be a wasteland. You cannot develop your resources. We are a resource state. We should be developing our coal. We should be developing our forest. We should be developing mining into all of the rare earth elements that we so desperately need, and copper and gold. We should be developing our natural gas and selling it as a stable source to our allies in Asia and elsewhere. We should be developing our oil and refining it on our own up here and selling it at a higher price. We should be developing several new power plants, whether they're micronuclear, coal, you name it. We should be absolutely looking at tidal. All about it. We have a small pilot project trying to start at Point McKenzie. All of that, Michael, but all of it, when you think about it, the Democrats stand against it all of it. And I'm not always a fan of everything Republican, right? And I'm talking mostly up the food chain, way up, at the top, and national, got their problems. But the platform and the principles, and for the most part, Republicans stand for resource development, stand for at least strong national defense and strong leadership, which we have none of right now in our nation on the international stage. I just look at it, Mike, and I shake my head. And I'm like, how do you support Democrats when they are basically anti-American at this point? They hate this country. And I know it's not every single Democrat, I get it, but by and large, the Democrat Party in the United States, which includes Alaska, Michael, they have become anti-American. They hate this country. And I don't even know how you could be one anymore. And if you're going to be one, don't even call yourself Democrat. Just call what you are. You guys are the communists, Marxists, socialists, progressives, whatever they are. But they have progressed. They have progressed all right. They're progressive. They progressed to crazy land.
Well, I mean, I hate to, look, I hate to, I wouldn't cast aspersions to say people are evil. I mean, I think a lot of these people truly believe in the rhetoric that they spout. Unfortunately, what I think it is that it's guilt, right? It's this guilt that we somehow, because of our government system and the way that we've done things, we have succeeded where many nations haven't. We're the most successful experiment in the history of the world so far as governments go. And they feel guilty about that success. And so what they want to keep trying to do is push us into the other directions of these other places so that we fail and they don't have to feel that guilt. That's what I think. That's really what I think is the root cause of a lot of this stuff. I don't think that they necessarily hate America. I think that they're embarrassed because of the success and they don't want to feel guilty.
Oh, Michael, let's be brutally honest here. Yes, I think you're right in some part, but don't kid yourself. You and I both know that there are many Democrats today that do hate America, because Democrats are the party of LGBT, they're the party of Antifa, they're the party of BLM, and those entities, they do hate this country and what it stands and stood for. Because I say stood in the past, obviously, they do. There are many Democrats that are guilty, absolutely guilty of whatever, guilty of success. Wow, that's a big one. But they also hate this country. They say it all the time. Hate America. America's terrible. America's evil. Talk about evil. They talk about it all the time. So there's a lot of them that hate this country now, and the different groups that make up the modern Democrat Party. And I'm pejoratively using the term evil, right? I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's people always want to hold words against you, but you know how I mean it. I don't mean like evil like the devil. I mean evil in the sense of of the things they're doing, of what they seem to believe in, that want to destroy this country. And when you look at somebody that wants to essentially destroy it, and in cases like BLM and Antifa want to burn it to the ground, well, Michael, what do you call that? Do you call that, well, that's just not, they're just a little upset, mostly peaceful riots. Call it what it is. We need to quit apologizing. Like people that support Trump, they've got people so boxed into a corner that the first thing people have to feel like they have to say now is say, you know what? Trump's my guy. That's who I support. I like his policies because it's all about the policies when you get to that level. And what do people do, Michael? Now they're so boxed into a corner. They've got us so afraid of our own shadow as conservatives and people that are patriots and those of us that love our country, whether you're Republican or independent or whatever you are, we have to start off with apologies. Well, I know that he mean tweets. I know that he can be a jerk. I know, but I like his policies. Stop. Quit being afraid of our shadow. Go back to being the America we used to be, where we weren't afraid of anybody. We weren't afraid to build things. We didn't care what people thought. We did what we thought was right. We were in charge of our country. We were moving forward, Michael. And right now we are like afraid of our own shadows. I'm tired of it. I don't apologize anymore. You know what? Trump's who I support. You know why? Because I like his policies. Period. Dot. Oh, Biden's a nice guy. I don't care. I don't need a nice president, Michael. I need one that's going to support our country, that's going to support resource development, that's going to support a strong economy, that's going to be a strong leader on the world stage. That's what I need. I'd rather have a mean jerk that's going to do those things that matter for my country than somebody that's nice. It doesn't matter. I am tired of us apologizing for being strong. I'm tired of us apologizing for being successful. Stop it. Get past it. I'm done with it. Trump's the guy I support. And if you're an Alaskan and you live in the state and you don't support Trump and you vote for the Democrats, you're voting to destroy this state. Period. Dot. End of story. Anything else you want to say on that topic?
No, I mean, you're scorching the earth well enough, my friend. I don't need to add to that. I mean, here's my take on it. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that there are certain people that definitely hate the way America's going. They hate the way that the system works. They probably hate the country. I don't think that I don't think it's a majority by any means. I think that there's a lot of people that kumbaya and go along to get along. I don't know, as a lot of times the red meat rhetoric is helping to move the conversation, but I feel you. I feel you what you're saying right there for sure. And we need to be looking at policies that keep us going. That, again, as I said earlier, we are the most successful governmental experiment in the history of the world. We need to keep that going, and we need to not feel ashamed or guilty about it. We need to be proud of it, and we need to help other people take part in this experiment. We should be, people should be emulating what the U.S. is doing, and they could be successful as well, instead of bringing everybody down to a common level of misery, which is kind of the whole goal of communism and socialism. We should be exporting this idea of freedom and free markets and, representative constitutional republics to everybody, and they should all get on board. But that's my take on that as well.
You're very magnanimous today, but let me ask you a question, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to be nice and friendly with a modern left-wing Democrat, do you think that's going to work? Do you think that's going to change them or make them like you or want to work with you, unless they're working with you with their fingers crossed behind their backs? This is born of the last 8 years of experience and watch where they've gone and what they've done.
Right.
Do you really think that a left-wing Democrat in the United States of America today is actually going to come around and like this country and think we're the greatest thing on earth? Do you really think that?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. But again, I guess the question is, if we look at each other face to face and tell each other that we're both evil, because they'll think that we're evil because we're greedy and we want to just succeed and let everybody else on the oppressive backs of the masses, et cetera, et cetera. Where's the path forward then between the two of us? I mean, because you're right, I probably would not convince somebody being polite, being nice, agreeing to disagree. So where's the path forward? That's my question.
The path forward, first of all, Michael, is we go back to our roots. We go back to the basics. We go back to a strong country that was not afraid to build things, a strong country that is not afraid to look at the rest of the world and go, we don't care about what you think. We don't. Because Russia doesn't care what the United States thinks. China doesn't care what the United States thinks, nor does Cuba or Venezuela or a host of other countries, most of Europe apparently. They don't care. They're going to do what is in their best interest. The problem is we have leadership in this country that seems to care more about what everybody else thinks and their impressions and how much people like us and whatever their things are and all of their left-wing lunacy politics and policies and ideology. And it's not going to move this country forward economically or developmentally. So those policies don't work. We know that over and over again. And like I said, that's why I'm trying to be pejorative. People always want to use your words, right? When I say something like, like they're just evil. The policies. I don't mean the people. And like I said, that's why I was clear. I'm not saying like the devil. I'm talking about what their policies, where they lead us. Why are you going to tell me that, what happened with the Khmer Rouge, what happened in China, what happened in the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, those weren't evil.
That's evil.
That's
evil.
It leads down this path. The ideology, Mike, that we're talking about, that these people lead us towards, is towards communism and Marxism. Where have those always gone in the history of humankind? Down a path to tyranny, and bad things happen. That's my point. Look at our history and don't forget it. The ideology these people are espousing and where they want to take us has always gone down a dark path in history.
Yeah,
always.
It's a frustrating thing to do. We'll continue this here in just a minute. Mike Shower is our guest, State Senator, District O, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
So what happens when you get coffee? Then do you tell us what you really think or what?
Nah, I calm down. I calm way down.
Calm way down. Just bring it on down. Look, I agree. No, look, let's call a spade a spade. You talked about, Khmer Rouge, you talked about the purges in Russia, you talked about, yes, that's evil. Communism is evil. I mean, on paper it works perfectly, but as soon as you add people to the mix, it becomes a mechanism for control, and it really is. The actions of communists across the centuries is evil. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I just wonder, how do we convince people, especially those who are in the middle, who are not zealots one side or the other? How do you convince them that you are in the right, that your thinking is correct, while again using, as you said, the pejoratives against the other side? I mean, I'm thinking about trying to win hearts and minds here. What's the deal?
I know, but listen to what I'm saying, Michael. I'm not out here on the far right claiming Republican and far right ideology. That's not what I'm saying. Listen carefully to I know you are, but I'm kind of highlighting your point. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying pro-America, pro our constitutional republic, pro the ideals and principles of this country, pro a strong United States and the leadership role of our nation and internationally. I'm talking pro-energy, pro-economic development. Everything I'm saying isn't like far right-wing principles. I didn't say that in any of my stuff. And I'm trying to highlight what you're saying. My points aren't about right or left per se, except that the left wing in this country, the Democrats, have gone down this Marxist, socialist, communist path. That's where they're headed. You know it. We know it. You can't argue that. And that always has led to a dark place throughout human history. I can't go there. I'm not going to go there. I will fight that to my last dying breath. But listen to everything I'm saying. It's all about America. It's all about our founding principles. It's all about what made this country great. It's all about what takes us back to what got us there, which was being strong and independent. That's what gets people in the middle to understand and want that for our country. It's just that a whole bunch of people on the left seem to want something the entirely opposite of that. The people on the right side of the political spectrum, Republican or whoever they are, generally seem to want that. And I think most people in the middle want that. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of people kind of break toward people to jump into. It's the ideals, it's the principle of this country. What got us here is what works because it got us here.
Right.
What they're espousing now got these other countries to where they are, and none of them were good places.
Right.
So that's my point, Michael. That's my rah-rah flag right there, if you will.
Right.
It's like what got us here are all of those principles, and we need to return to those principles because that's what's going to, and I hate to use that term because ever make us great again, but that's what's going to bring this country out of its malaise and put us back into a leadership position in the world and being number one in energy development, economic development, bringing people out of poverty and moving forward. That's what does it. Because that's the formula. It's the very thing you're talking about this morning. That's the formula that got us here. So let's go back to it. Let's use it.
I don't disagree with the fact that we should embrace who we are and we should embrace what this country did and not feel guilty about it and not try and dissect it or destroy it from within. I agree with that. Again, and apparently everybody else agrees with it. Somebody just said, Mike Showers getting you back on track, Mr. Dukes, because apparently my methods are not my methods are not red meat enough for everybody here. That's okay. That's not kind of who I am. I'm not a bomb thrower, but I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, maybe just not the way that it's being said right now. But we got to go. Let's jump into it. The Michael Duke Show.
Public enemy number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Pain in the something or other. Welcome back to the program, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Mike Shower is our guest. We're continuing on here. He got started with the flamethrower, and I guess we're going to continue on. You had all those topics in front of you, Mike. We need to go back to what made us great. And I mean, look, I'm not disagreeing with that. We are, as I said earlier, we're the best, we're the greatest nation on earth, period. I mean, I believe that. I believe in the American exceptionalism of saying the freest, the best, even with all of our warts and boils and blisters and everything that we have, people still dying to get into the country. It's a good place to be. But we need to hold on to it. And I don't want to see it destroyed. I don't want to see us go the way of, Venezuela or someplace else where they are trying to, mandate outcomes instead of mandating opportunities. That's a big deal for me. I agree with that. But
so that's my point, Michael. I'll say that very clearly again, and I think we can move. We got some other topics, but it's not the person. I'm not claiming a person necessarily is evil, although there certainly have been evil people in history, and there are certainly evil people in this country. And you usually talk to psychopaths and serial killers and whatever. I'm talking about the generic principles. The principles of the Democrat Party lead us down a path towards what has always turned out to be evil. Tyrannical, evil governments, policies, things that happen for all of the ideologies that they espouse. That's my point. When I say the Democrats and what they're doing are evil, is towards those policies and ideology. That's my point. I'm not out here saying that Democrat's an evil person. That's not what I'm saying. And I want to be clear about that because it's not the individual person. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the ideology, where it takes us. And the problem is those people are espousing and seem to be adhering to those policies and those ideologies. And that leads to a dark place. It always has. It's leading us to a dark place now. We're not the ones out there. So I'll end on this. That's what I'm trying to say. My point is we need to stop apologizing because we're trying to be the nice guys. We're trying to be the ones we can make it work and we can all get along. I'm not sure we can. They certainly aren't trying to. They're pushing us into a corner. And they keep pushing us, Michael, on every crazy, wacky thing. Men and girls sports, destroying girls sports, men and girls bathroom with little girls, transgendering children and surgeries at 10, 12 years old. The stuff they're pushing on the average individual that doesn't believe in it, you tell me why we should be apologizing anymore and getting along and agreeing. It's time for us to start fighting and pushing back. And that was my overall point that I end on, is it's like the Trump thing. Oh, you got to apologize first before you can say why you might support somebody. Be done with that. If that's your guy, if that's the policies, then be bold. Move forward like we used to be when the United States led the world. We didn't apologize for being who we are. All right, let's pivot because enough on that one. Let's go to the election thing Kevin was talking about. That's a big deal. I know I missed last week because I was doing some training, but I hopefully did Mike Cronk make it on?
Mike did make it on. Yeah, he made it on last
Good,
week.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, he'd be a great guy in the Senate. We sure could use the numbers. But so as I have been talking on your program, and and the people that have listened for many years, as many people continue, including the Democrats and others, there's nothing to see here. Elections are fine. There's no problem with the judicial system. The judges are fine. No issues. They're above the fray. Come on, Michael. Look, we got judges in trouble right now. We have over 1,300, as you saw. I broke the story about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, now whatever it was, a couple weeks ago, about the fact that all of these Ukrainians that are coming here trying to apply for asylum, that want to be, get asylum and become citizens, all of them checking no when they're applying for the PFD. Over 1,300 known real people being hurt, saying no, being advised, because they get an organization, and a constituent reached out to me that is in this organization working to help them, and said they know of over 1,300 that all check the box, no, do not register me to vote, because they know that if they, down the road, months, years, whatever, when they can apply for citizenship, the officer, working their case will look at it and go, you registered to vote, that's illegal. Denied, you're done, you're out. So they don't do that. All of them got their registration cards from the automatic voter registration system when they apply for the PFD. So people say, no, it's fine. All is good. No, it's not. This is not the first time we've seen an entire bag of ballots show up, Michael. We have it on the record when I was committee chairman, when we actually had Republican control of the Senate. And we've got a guy down in Hoonah that was a former mayor testifying how he saw a guy walking around with a briefcase that had actual ballots in it. That's illegal. We have other cases of boxes of ballots and things being like dropped off the side of the road. On the record, this has been happening for years. This is not about fraud and other stuff and swinging the election, because everybody always wants to take it's like the abortion debate, right? The first thing they go, what about rape and incest, right? They always go to the tiniest thing that's the most emotional to try to blunt your point. My point is, Michael, we have issues that we know about that we can make the system better and more secure. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't somebody want to do that? You have to ask that why question, right? And we know there are problems like this. There are real people being hurt by our system right now. And we can't seem to get the Democrats again, and a few Republicans, to agree to repeal the automatic voter registration that is really hurting people and making our election system less secure and registering thousands of people that shouldn't be registered. We can't get the voter rolls cleaned up because they want to put a whole bunch of left-wing things in it, as opposed to just one clean voter roll cleanup bill that we all know that everybody acknowledges nationwide. Alaska is the worst in the nation for having overinflated rolls. So when a lieutenant governor a few years ago with the COVID debacle decides to mass mail out ballots, we're sending out over 100,000 ballots that should have never been sent out. Where'd they go? Who got them? Did they get returned? Was it somebody that shouldn't have been? Was it somebody that voted for somebody that was dead or no longer eligible to vote? We have no idea. Do you know why, Michael? Because we didn't actually do any forensic audit. We don't have any idea if all those ballots came back were legitimate or not.
Right.
But no, nothing to see here, no problems, right? This is my point, Michael. I've been talking about the smoke for years, And there's plenty of little fires burning out there that we should be fixing. And of course, like I've talked about before, and I wrote an article, right after that whole thing broke, a couple weeks ago. I wrote another article. I said, what about the Chewbacca report? There's 3 pages of recommendations. I know bits and pieces of it, talking to people that have seen it. Things like the Dominion voting machines. Apparently, we're supposed to check those and make sure they're good. Maybe we didn't do that before election 2020 or 2018 or different ones. That would be something, right? I've heard little bits and pieces of things on it that came out of that report. Maybe that's why it was all redacted when they let me look at it, and I couldn't see any of those because they were all blacked out. Maybe that's why they don't want to release it. I don't know. But there's things like that could help somebody like me focus my efforts on where do we need to actually make changes in statutes to fix it. And remember, I'll go back to, there are people saying, well, we can't do anything unless it's in statute. Wrong. I had 2 pages of recommendations. I've said that on your program many times and others, that there are plenty of policy and regulation things that could be done tomorrow to fix some of these things. Not all of them, but some of them. So when people say there's nothing to see here, there's nothing wrong, the press always goes to that most emotional, most base argument. They're full of baloney, Michael, because there are issues. There is some fraud in our election system. How much? I don't know. We don't have a trained fraud unit. We don't have troopers that can do it because they've never been trained to do it. And they're given, I turned in a whole bunch of stuff to law enforcement years ago. We had hundreds and hundreds of cases of people that were from like Uzbekistan and Russia and China and Venezuela. And you're like, how do you run that down? We had 1,000 of those that we handed over. Michelle and I looked up ours. I don't know if you ever looked yours up, but it showed that like we voted, I forget which way it went. We voted in the state, but not the Matsu, or we showed that we voted in Matsu, but not the state. And we vote every time. And it didn't even show. I'm like, really? And I'm like, so how do you know? We don't track ballots, right? We don't have watermarks on them. We don't make sure they all return to a single collected point and make sure we account for every one of them. Some of the districts actually just shred or burn the ballots.
Right.
We can track a FedEx package from you to the outback, to Aboriginal in the outback Australia, real time. But we can't track a ballot. Right. California and many other states are doing it. My point is, Michael, there's lots of room for improvement and making it better and getting the faith restored in the people, and we're not. And I know I just literally spoke for like 6 minutes without taking a breath, so I'll stop. But that's what McCabe was talking about. His buddy showed him that and said, look at this, man, a whole bag of ballots.
Yeah.
I mean, at least the Division of Elections is taking it seriously. That's awesome. But there are things that we could be doing that would make this much better, much tighter. And we're not.
Well, look, there's some simple things. I mean, like we have more people on the voter rolls than we actually have voters in the state. That should be a pretty easy thing to, that should be as far as the pinnacle of to-dos on the to-do list, that should be the first thing that we should be taking a look at. But unfortunately, you're getting a lot of pushback on it, and while I don't ascribe to the belief that the 2020 election was completely stolen, I do believe that anytime you have people who are concerned and have legitimate concerns about election integrity, which I think there are instances of that out there, you have you get this loss of faith in the electoral system, which is the cornerstone of the republic. And so we need to address it, whether people think that they're real or not. We need to at least acknowledge that there's a potential problem and that the perception could be the reality. And we have to look at those things. We can't just put our head in the sand and say it's all fine because somebody said it's fine. They have to be looked at and examined. And like I said, while I don't agree with everything that everybody said, I fully support the idea of going and looking at it. And where is the Chewbacca report? Where is the report that they spent money on, took a look at, and then anytime you ask for it, it's almost fully redacted? Where is that report? Why are they? This is an election report paid for by state dollars for one of the most important systems in the state, and they refuse to release it. And you get the runaround. You ask the governor says, talk to the lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governor says, talk to the governor. I mean, where's the accountability?
I don't know. There's some things I just look at a guy, shake my head. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, Michael. I wish I had an answer. I obviously don't, and I don't have the report in my hands, so I can do my job better. And that's what frustrates me, because I'm there to do work and make things better wherever I can, and that's something that is hindering my ability to do that. And I'm having to kind of sometimes almost like the blind man, kind of poke in the dark and try to do some of these things. So yes, it is very frustrating. And like you, I don't know There's no doubt now with all of the cases that have gone through various states that there was plenty of fraud in the 2020 election. There's plenty of fraud probably, Michael, in every election in various states across a nation of 1/3 of a billion people with 50 states, some left, some right, some this. There's always been fraud. Like you, I don't know if it was enough if the election was, stolen or not. I mean, look, in 2016, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were talking about a stolen election. In 2020, Trump and a lot of Republicans were talking about a stolen election. The point is, lots of people, when they don't win, claim fraud and claim stolen elections and all that stuff. All the people are doing it. It has shaken the faith of the American people. That's why I started this. I go back to the press always wants to ignore this. Oh, you're just an election denier of Trump in 2020. I'm like, really? Really? That's what you think, huh? Then why don't you go back and look at when I started filing my first bills in 2018 when Trump had won, when it was the Democrats claiming how bad things were. And they were claiming all this problem with our election systems, you may remember, up until the night of the election in 2020. And then when they declared by the way, election system is fine, no problems, it's perfectly secure. I'm like, really? Because that's not what you were saying for the last 4 years.
Right.
And now you have people on the right side of the spectrum in the last 4 years complaining about it.
Right.
I was working on this, Michael, when Trump was the guy that was in office,
right,
before there was any of the claims from the right.
Well, yeah, and people do,
because we saw a problem.
Well, and people do forget that after the 2016 election, there was a whole slew of Democrats who for 2 years talked about how there was election interference and election integrity, and it was a thing. I mean, so this is not simply a Republican problem for sure. All right, we got to go. We're up against the break. Mike Shower is our guest. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Woo! We'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere. We'll return right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Mike Shower is our guest here on the program as we continue on. We get some fired up people in the chat room this morning. They are fired up. And like I said, I mean, I want to highlight the point that it doesn't matter whether in the big picture, it doesn't matter whether the allegations that many people have made are true or not. The problem is that perception is reality, and we need to confirm that the elections are secure so that you can keep the accountability and the belief of the American people that it is secure. Because that's the problem. And as soon as you start to shake the cornerstones with people being not just dissatisfied, but worried that the process is flawed, broken, or corrupt, that's where the biggest issue comes into play.
That's right. And see, that's my point, Michael, is that it doesn't, in a way, it's irrelevant whether any of the elections were stolen from one party or not. What's relevant is what do the American people believe? And if they no longer believe that the system is secure or fair or right, then we have, then it's the old Houston, we have a problem, right? Because that's what matters, is what do the American people believe? If they believe the system is fair and it's just like, well, my guy lost, then okay, well, we move on and we work harder next time. If it's like this election system is broken, the other side is cheating, they're stealing the elections, you've lost your republic, my friend, because nobody believes in it anymore. And that leads us again to a dark path of where this goes. And so that's me, one of the linchpins why it is so important that we get ahead of the curve and quit thinking 2 and 4 years ahead of ourselves and start thinking 10, 20, 50 years down the road about where will we be if we don't fix things now that we know are broken.
Right.
And whether they're really broken or not is irrelevant, because I said it goes back to what do the people believe?
Right. What's the
and
perception?
Right now, it is pretty clear to me that the people do not believe that our system is secure. or fair, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
You gotta fix it.
I think Brian says it all. He says it seems like the simplest solution is to open up the elections for a systematic review, rather, and then fix the issues. Take the issue off the table. And that's part of the problem
Agreed.
is that there's this
Agreed.
pushback of looking at it and seeing if there is a problem. That's, I think, what a lot of people, that's all a lot of us want is just a look at it to make sure that it does work. But then there's pushback from the other side to say, no, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You're just being
Doesn't
paranoid.
that always isn't that the question that you're like, why would you be afraid of that? Why would you be afraid of that systematic review? Why would you be afraid of tightening up the system? It's funny that, again, I go back to, for the most part, it's the Democrats that don't want to touch this system. They think it's just dandy. They love and want to keep ranked choice voting. They love automatic voter registration. They don't want to clean up the voter rolls. They want same-day registration. They want 16-year-olds to be registered. It's funny how they don't want to fix or review anything in the systems because they say it's fine and want to go even further down the path of things that would make it less secure. Remember, Representative Sarah Vance had she borrowed, and I say this, she borrowed a lot of this stuff from me because we've been working on it for 7 years, and Sarah's trying to move on things. Well, she had this, remember that clean voter registration. Very simple. It just got people off the rolls sooner, helped clean up her rolls. Scott Kawasaki, Democrat again from Fairbanks, your old neck of the woods, took that thing and just Christmas treated up with a whole bunch of left-wing desires and killed it. We had another chance to do a clean, simple voter roll cleanup bill that would have helped a little bit in the process. Nope. Democrats got their hand on it and killed it. So every time we've tried this, Mike, with the exception, and I give kudos to Chris Tuck from before, because you remember a few years ago we did this, we had a truly bipartisan bill that had stuff like voter roll cleanup in it. And we got it to the floor and they Christmas treated it with a bunch of other garbage again, and it killed it. I had to kill it. Chris and I were like, yeah, we can't let that through. And that was in the last, few hours of the last night of the 2-year session. The point is, every time we get close to one of these goals, somebody torpedoes it. It's almost like they don't want it to happen. So,
right. That's the problem when you obstruct, and again, that just adds to people's dissatisfaction and suspicion when that kind of stuff happens. Why don't you want to, why don't we want to secure the vote? Why? Yes, it's one person, one vote, but why do you want to open up the floodgates to allow for the potential for misuse or election fraud or anything else? It seems like then your ulterior motives are showing. You may want to check your slip because they're showing. And that's, I think, part of the problem that we've
three things, Michael. If we did 3 things, I think it would go a long way. Number one, and thank goodness, it looks like repeal of ranked choice voting is going to stay on the ballot.
Yep.
We repeal it. That's a big check mark. This next session, we repeal automatic voter registration. So we get rid of that problem that is making it a nightmare for the division of elections. That's a big one. And we do a simple voter roll cleanup bill to clean up our voter rolls. If we did these 3 things in the next year or so, this will go a long way towards everything we're talking about for election integrity and security. And I'm hopeful that the lieutenant governor will help me work on that. So
okay, gotta go. Gotta go. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, final segment here for today's show, the Wednesday edition of the program. Again, a reminder, Monday is Labor Day, and we will be off the air on the show on Labor Day. There'll be other programming, but we'll be on vacation. State Senator Mike Shower is our guest. We've been hot and heavy this whole last 48 minutes going through stuff. Let's take it into the next segment here. Mike, I think the election horse is dead. You may dismount. What is the next topic to discuss this morning?
I'll just baseline the 3 points we had though off the break, since everybody in the radio didn't hear it. There's 3 things that we kind of finished up on the in between segments that I think are important, and I'll just say those and move on. Is that if we do 3 things with repeal of ranked choice voting staying on the ballot, thank goodness the Supreme Court agreed and left it on there. That's good. If we repeal ranked choice voting this November, the people vote yes on 2, right? So that we repeal ranked choice voting. If we then can, if the lieutenant governor will work with us and we can get control of both chambers and repeal automatic voter registration when you file for the PFD, that will go a long way towards cleaning up the rolls. And then finally, at least hopefully, we will get a clean voter roll cleanup bill through the legislative body. And then maybe if I can get the administration to do a few of those things I've told them before that they can do in policy and regulation, we can move a huge step or two forward in making our system better. So that's where I'll stop, because we didn't get a chance to say that in the radio for everybody that wasn't listening. Now, pivoting to your third point, right, I think was interesting, looking at the primary results. It wasn't something that if you're like, for a lot of your listeners and maybe were like, well, it was fantastic, but it also wasn't terrible. So it was a lot of races are pretty close that would have significant changes for both bodies. A lot of it would be what in my view, would be positive of allowing potential Republican control of both bodies, where we would have the trifecta for the first time. And a lot of people don't realize, how come we haven't filed or gotten a bill through, Mike? I'm like, everything I've tried to do you realize every single year I have been there for coming up on 8 years, every single year, one of the bodies has been controlled by Democrats that stop everything I have tried to do. So every single year, you can't get anything through. People go, well, those Republicans, they're passing bills that aren't contentious. They're not having contentious bills. I've said it many times. I don't work on the easy stuff. I wasn't sent there to name bridges. I was sent there to do things that matter for the future of this state and our children. And so trying to clean up the election system and make it tighter, trying to look at how we choose our judges, because the Constitution is clear in how we do it, and we don't do it that way. Things like that that matter are where I put most of my efforts. So my point to all that, Michael, is I think the results were they weren't terrible, and it really looks that we could have, I'm hoping, right, some, what the jungle primary really means, because of the craziness and lunacy of ranked choice voting system, how it was brought into the state, is that the jungle primary that we hold in August is really just an expensive taxpayer funded poll, because most races don't have more than 4 people in it, which means everybody's simply going to move on to the general election anyways. Why are you even having a primary?
It's a straw poll, right? Yeah,
it's a straw poll. You're wasting money. It's ridiculous to have this. And then in a lot of races, you got like 4 Republicans running against each other. Well, that's great. You don't even have Democrat, or you have races where there's just a Democrat, like a couple in Anchorage, and they're not even opposed, or down in Southeast. So it's kind of ridiculous in that sense, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. And so, but like I said, some of the races have really tightened up now after that straw poll was done. I am happy to see that the lieutenant governor made the decision to exit the race, because that allows us to now have, like it used to be, one Republican really against one Democrat.
And we've seen that happen in several races where Republicans have self-managed and said, nope, I'm pulling out.
Yes.
To make it a one-on-one race instead of a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 race where you get one
Jackson
progressive.
Gave her kudos.
Yeah, exactly.
Sharon Jackson said, I'm out. That's awesome. Good on her for doing what will
Tom
hopefully
McCabe
be best for the state.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Tom McCabe dropped out. There's and I think Cole Snodgrass dropped out. I think this is what is going to need to happen in the interim until we're able to get back to the regular primaries where we could choose
about 4 or 5 days for that to happen, and people better get on it. And my question for Michael is 2 things. Look, first of all, is it about you, or is it about what's best for the state? If you're staying in a race when you were a distant 3rd or 4th place, why are you in the race? I want to give them choices. No, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to get the least best person elected, because you're going to split the vote with conservatives or Republicans or undeclares that lean right, whatever. If you're a Republican in a race with 3 or 4 Republicans, or 2 or 3 Republicans against a Democrat, if you don't get out of the race, why are you staying in it? Are you really in this for the right reason, or are you in this for yourself, your own ego, pride, whatever? Because that's the question, I think, for a lot of people. The other question I have for those that really maybe aren't like that, they just want to, be there, and, and they really do believe, and they're trying to do their best. Then I look at them and go, again, if you're a distant 3rd or 4th place as a Republican, and say one of the Eagle River might be an example, right? There are 4 Republicans in there, but you had one that's the incumbent, and you have one that got really close. And you had 2 others in there that were splitting the votes, taking away a lot of conservative votes. One of those we just thought, Sharon Jackson, dropped out. or like a Ken McCarty, and a lot of people are giving him grief. And I'm not trying to be, I don't want to be mean towards, Ken. He believes in being there and trying to make a difference. But I look at him and go, Ken, you don't have a viable path to victory. You're so far down the list, you can't make up, even if your and Sharon votes combined aren't even close to Gecker, right, in this particular case. So you don't have a clear path. So make the path more clear for the person that got the most votes to move forward to victory, because you're simply going to take people's money, right, and time away from the person that has the most viable path, regardless of whether it's Republican v. Republican or Republican v. Democrat, like Lieutenant Governor Dahlstrom.
Right.
Getting out when he had no clear path to victory means that Nick Begich, now as the top vote getter for Republican, has a much more clear path to victory, unifying everybody behind him. Now he's getting a lot of support from different people from D.C. on down, and he can probably win now. But when they were going to split the votes, if she stayed in, there was no clear path to victory really for either one of them. So I look at everybody across the state. If you're a Republican and you're staying in the race as the third or fourth vote getter, so you're in third or fourth place, you should be exiting that race and get all of your people that voted for you behind the top vote getter, the one that has a clear path or a clearer path, because you're going to give them a path to victory, which means then policy-wise, because that's the ultimate thing, right? We get more people that are aligned elected so we can have control of both bodies with the Republican governor. And the next thing you know, Mark, we are moving election integrity. We are moving reform on some of these things that need to happen. We are coming up with a fiscal policy that's balanced and comprehensive, and an energy policy, et cetera, et cetera. That's the goal, right? And so I ask people back to that first thing. If you're not getting out of the race to give a clear path to victory for the person that is the best viable candidate at this point after the straw poll, why are you in the race?
Right. No, I mean, that's exactly it. And the only better outcome that could have been with the Nancy thing is if she had thrown a full-throated endorsement behind Nick to make it happen. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, we need to do it in race after race after race to show that there is a viable path to victory. And staying in there simply to be the spoiler is, I mean, if you really care about the state, you have to put your personal ambitions aside to do that, I think, a lot of times. And that's the hard thing for a lot of these candidates to do. Mike, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Shoot, boy, we just covered 3 big topics there. I mean, I don't know. Geez, 2 whole minutes to talk.
90 seconds now.
Well, I got rid of 30 seconds there on that one. So I don't know, man. There's so much going on. I just listened to a podcast last night. Michelle and I were driving. The Israel thing is interesting. That's kind of waiting to see where that goes, because that's really spun up. But, we talked about this a long time ago, months ago. That's kind of spinning up with the Iran thing. We'll see, because they're back and forth. So really, honestly, Michael, I'll probably end the segment because I can talk this last 60 seconds, but I believe, going back to the election, I don't care what your opinion is on Trump anymore. Not you, but I mean people in general. But we need leadership. And Harris is even worse, in my opinion, on many fronts than Biden was. He was just kind of there. She's an actual ideological believer in the far left policies and principles, and that's dangerous. And that's back to no leadership. And without the United States having strong leadership and a strong position, I think the Middle East is standing by to go up in flames, and that's going to affect us in ways that people should really be considering, because that's going to be big for us. The price of oil, the price of food, everything. So it's going to be interesting to watch. We'll have lots to talk about over the next, 2 months until the election, but it's going to be a wild ride, my friends. So buckle up, Buttercup.
Buckle up. Yeah, buckle up for a new season. It's going to be definitely interesting to watch, and we'll see how the elections play out. Mike Shower, State Senator District O, thanks for coming on board. As always, educational and entertaining, if nothing else. Folks, we got to go. Tomorrow's another day. We're working on some guests for tomorrow. Don't know yet, but we'll figure something out. And then, of course, Friday's Firearms Friday. Be kind, love one another, live well. Back with more tomorrow. All right, Mike, final bite at the apple. We covered a lot of ground there, today, and it's good. And you got some people who are agreeing and disagreeing with you in the chat room, which I think is healthy. But overall, I agree with you that, we need to return back to the roots of what made us the most powerful, most prosperous, most successful nation on earth. And we shouldn't be ashamed of it. Not that we all had a big hand in it, but we're using the system and we shouldn't be tearing it down. That's what I'm going to agree with today.
I'll tell you this to end the segment, Michael. Here's the thing. Yes, this country has its bumps and bruises. Every single country on the planet does and has in their history. Slavery, treatment of Indians and others. We all know that. There's all kinds of bad stuff in the world. But at the same time, we have brought the United States and our system of a constitutional republic, and what we have done has raised the standard of living for more people than any other thing in the history of mankind. And on top of that, we are the most generous nation who has done the most for helping people around the world with medicine and food, war, when we went there to help the oppressed. We have done some bad things in history like all countries, but we have also done more good. And people seem to forget that part, that the United States has its bumps and bruises like all countries, but we've also done more for more people and humankind than any other nation in the history of humankind. And that's the part that we need to be highlighting, that's the good parts. There's always good and bad in marriage, right? There's good and there's bad, for better or for worse, but you stick it out. And you look at, and hopefully they have a lot more better times than worse times. And that's the point, Michael. The United States really is an amazing country. Even with our bumps and bruises and the black marks in our history, we're still the best thing that has ever existed in the history of humankind, and has done more for every human being in its own way than has ever been done by any other nation. And we can't forget that, because we're letting our children forget it, and we're letting the left-wing lunatics drive the narrative. And they're driving it that America is bad, when in fact America has been the best force for good in the history of humankind. So let's not forget that.
No, I mean, I agree. We are the shining city on the hill. Still, again, even with all of our black marks and our blisters and boils and warts and everything else, we're still the best thing going. So it's
indeed, my friend.
It's good stuff.
Privileged to have been born and lived in this nation, brother.
Yep,
without question.
All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate you coming on board as always. It was great. We'll talk to you next week. Maybe you're going to be available, or you?
I might be busy, so we'll see. I'll let you know.
You let me know. Let me know. We'll be working on it. All right, folks. All right. Out of time. Thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate you coming on board. All right, folks. We are done for today. Again, if you haven't gone over to Rumble, I'm posting the link up in the chat room. Go over there and follow the channel on Rumble, just in case I get kicked off of Facebook for talking about stuff. Feel free to go over there and follow Rumble, and we'll be ready to go. Thank you for coming on board. We will see you guys tomorrow. The Luke Show. Well, that was odd. There we go. See you tomorrow.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.